We're back, level 75, so finally we have ourselves Mind Sear. We've got some AoE for the very first time, really in the history of a Shadow Priest lifespan. So we jumped into Utgarde Keep. We wanted to give things a little bit of a try, a bit of a test run, get a feel for the rotation, and ultimately just see how high we could pump that DPS meter. As you'll see, really, as we go through this one, this is a bit of a different type of video. It's not going to be a live reaction, more of an aftermath, sort of thoughts and feelings as to how the dungeon went, and maybe just a bit of an explanation of what I was doing. Ultimately, Mind Sear is in a bit of an interesting spot compared to retail. The target you actually hit doesn't receive the damage, it beams around them, so if that's your priority target, you want to make sure you're aiming at damage elsewhere. And there's a few major breakpoints, because it's essentially just going to become a filler replacement. So single target, you're always spamming Mind Flay. When your dots are up and your Mind Blast is on cooldown, when you've got big packs, 3 members plus, Mind Flay becomes Mind Sear instead. So ultimate goal when you do have a concentrated pack, like you see us approach in just a second, is you really want to get your dots out. Majorly the usuals, right? Devouring Plague has to go out, Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch if you can afford it. Based on the level we're at and just how people are mainly over-geared for these dungeons, coming in with either Sunwell or full Gladiator gear, I don't really see the merit in going for the full rotation of dots. By the time everything's been dotted up, it's probably all dead anyway, so it felt like a bit of a waste. I just sat for the meantime, and you see I'm just constantly checking with the recount meter to see where those numbers are at, just to see, yeah, if we're actually hitting the mark or not. But once you start to get in a higher end content, when you're really pushing the limit, then for sure you'd be looking at a pack of 3 bombs here. Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, priority target needs to have that Devouring Plague for the triple dot Exodia, and then, yeah, go to your heart's content. It's not perfect by any means. You can see here in this situation, you'd be looking to try and keep Mind Blast on cooldown. It's only a 3-member pack. At 5, maybe that's when you start to consider if you want to drop Mind Blast or not, and by 8, especially if there's a big AoE pack, 8 members plus, you're just going to be spamming Mind Sear on cooldown, not caring about tab targeting whatsoever. But yeah, Utgarde Keep really isn't the biggest one for AoE packs. There is a fair concentration of just nuking down key targets, or just some passive cleave. Anyway, we got ourselves those dungeon quests, as we are now on to our 3rd dungeon on the road to level 80. Enjoying things so far, really. Shadow Priest's been a lot of fun. Not really a Shadow Priest main, but when I did join into Classic, starting in Vanilla, I gave it a try. I thought, you know what, I want to give something a bit of a change. Love playing the Healer Priest on retail, but Healer in the original game wasn't really my thing. I quite like the active style. Having to D-rank spells and having to be very passive, not really weaving in much damage because you've got hit rating and all these other stats, didn't really appeal to me. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try Shadow Priest, even if it is a little bit memey. That's what I'm going to go for. So things obviously come a long way since Vanilla. Shadow Priest is fairly viable now, especially in this initial tier. For tier 7, it's going to be pumping a fair bit of damage. Understandably, as the tiers go by, other casters and other classes are going to start to really take over. But for the utility and just, yeah, the personal fun aspect, right, that's really what I'm playing this version of the game for. Right? I'm not really too obsessed with Turbo Min-Max, Cutting Edge, Hall of Fame. Obviously want to kill the bosses and want to do them in an efficient manner, but I want to have fun at the same time and almost see the differences, like draw the comparisons and see the evolution of the class as it goes from where we are now to where it was all the way back in, 2011, when Wrath of the Lich King was first out. So still, once again, just tab targeting through, keeping those dots up. Mind Blast this time. Actually went for a Mind Flay rather than a Mind Sear. That's when you should go for a Mind Sear. But, yeah, it's good fun. It is some very good fun. Level 75, the only other thing we did is we put a 2nd point into the improved Vampiric Embrace, so just making sure that sustain is as good as possible. You can see I'm just quickly checking in with the quest that we have as well. Obviously it's just to pick up the armaments on the ground. Nice and easy to do. Plenty of them spread out through the entirety of that dungeon. Glowing, as you can see on the screen right now as well. And the last boss was just, yeah, to claim his head, hand those in, Bob's your uncle. But you can see, right, with the passive bleed, the damage being 2.5k, it's really starting to add up now. It's only going to get better once we go into some other big dungeons. I mean, if you saw the other video with the Ankerhet Old Kingdom, we had some big AoE falls spamming away. That would have been a great chance to showcase really what the Mind Sear could achieve. We haven't gone for the extra glyphs just yet. We're still running the pre-patch setup, which was the Mind Flay and the Shadow Web Pain one. We ultimately want to go for the Shadow Glyph for the extra passive damage, Spirit Spell Power from crits, and the Disperse cooldown. You're just seeing I'm using it very aggressively. Shouldn't really be too threatened to have to use it in a defensive capacity. But it is going to be a great way for me to keep the dungeon running at a very quick pace, not having to really stop too often to drink or pop those mana potions. You would have seen me just open up my inventory before and manually click one of the old potions, trying to retain as many of these runic ones as possible. Some very strong damage on that pack in particular.
Your blood is mine.
Now this boss was always fun. I remember you had to nuke him down, the ads came on through, as you can see them spawning in the background now. If somebody gets targeted, you have to break them out. But ideally you want to all be stacked up here. That's something that we failed to do. The ranges are rather split, makes it a little bit annoying for the tank, makes it a bit annoying to pre-plan some of your CC, or rather your AoE effects, right? Consecrate, Blizzard, as you can see our group has. But fairly forgiving given the level that we're at. I can just return now to the single target rotation. They back up, they come right, you know, switching from the Mind Flay straight into the Mind Sear, using the main boss to target. He doesn't receive the damage, but just make sure that damage spreads around and clears off. Yeah, Utgarde Keep, I like this dungeon. I never really had any gripes with it. I felt like it was thematically awesome. I love the zone of Howling Fjord. And overall, yeah, just a great time. I think that's the good thing with a lot of these dungeons, right, is they are fairly short-paced. Fast-paced, rather. But you can sort of get them done in and over without having to really strain yourself. That's the biggest difference, I guess, with retail, is especially with M+. You are looking at a lot of these dungeons that can, you know, 20, 30, 40 minutes, go on and on and on. But I've yet to have a dungeon that we've done in Classic go longer than 20 minutes. I'm sure that's the beauty of the fact that a lot of people that will be playing this have done all these in the past. They know what they're up to. They've geared, they've prepped, they've got themselves ready to rock and roll. Once again, dots on the main target, didn't bother with Shadow Web Pain, just 2 dots, Mind Sear to our heart's content, last 3k damage. Once again, check in, you can see the 64% of the overall damage. It's yeah, it's a big difference for us. And finally, there's a little bit of leeway for us to, you know, really steal the spotlight, take it all for ourselves and showcase that a meme spec is starting to truly come online. Starting to find its footing in the meta. Haven't really upgraded any of our gear just yet. I had a bit of a mix really between like gear from Karazhan. When I initially played, I quit. I got a little bit bored in Serpent Shire and Tempest Keep, so I went back to retail, and that's when I did the likes of Mythic Jailer and so on. Came back, and as I said in another video, we got ourselves a bit of Black Temple, a bit of Visual and Sunwell gear. And it's been, yeah, it's been cool to do these quests and these dungeons to sort of see the stat comparison, how things all add up. Just how much of a benefit, how much of a difference it makes. Yeah, I guess it's a little bit jaded because, you know, you're in retail, a patch happens and suddenly all your gear is just getting replaced by questing greens and it just feels awful. So it's been nice to sort of see that you can, you know, level 77 for instance, start to consider, hey, maybe some of this gear is getting outpaced now. blasting through these packs. And that was the benefit. I think 75 is a big breakpoint for us. We get ourselves, from memory, another talent point in Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, I think Mind Blast as well, and then we get Mind Sear. So it's a fairly big power spike overall. I'm excited for level 80, I really am. It's going to be cool to sort of see how the class functions with Priebus into Nax. I would love to go for a lot of those challenges like Undying. Push for all the really cool achievements, the mounts from doing all the special conditions in those raids. Not on this class, on my other, on my Death Knight and Alliance for the server. I'd love to push a little bit of PvP. Some of those videos will be coming out later on, but at the moment we're focusing on this. Get this one to 80 as quickly as we can, and continue the journey towards Lawmaster on the North End. We're a couple of zones in. Sitting in Zoldrak at the moment. And that's also been another cool thing, right? Is the fact that these zones were linear back in the day. They have breakpoints, right? You know, brackets between 70, 75, or even smaller than that in some cases. That's it. Off to the next zone you go. Quest become green, no longer the most efficient path. And nowadays, everything is very much a case of, well, if you want to quest in this area, then the mobs scale and you can fight accordingly. Great fight for us. Obviously, we can just tab targets, so Devouring Plague, Vampiric Touch, get the Shadow Weaving up as quickly as possible. Big reason for that is because you snapshot the Shadow Word Pain. And by Mind Flaying, you're constantly keeping it with those same stats. So if you ever do it at lower Shadow Weaving, then yeah, you're essentially just losing out on a whole bunch of damage over the course of a long fight. So always want to have that stacked up to 5, as you can see in the corner.
Competent slug, return and make yourself useful.
Just the major difference from what I remember of this fight. I thought from memory, it may just be like a heroic difference, is that you had to kill them at the very same time, but I guess here we can just nuke, cleave, and press onwards. Cheeky little Mind Sear, tank's like, thank you for that. Realizes, oh, we can skip. I was confused in the mage there, he was giving me these buffs and I was thinking, but why? This is always going to be a gripe with Dark Classes, right, is that if the mobs don't live long enough, then yeah, you can't truly realize your damage potential. Not on the highest end, right, only 1.6k compared to the 3k we'd pulled on other big AoE packs. But that's going to be the juggling act, right? Because you're going to find yourselves in dungeons where you're higher level. You know, maybe the group is incredibly geared. They're efficiently cycling through their cooldowns. So it was a big juggling act this entire dungeon to try and find that sweet spot of hard casting dots into just, you know, a couple of dots, spam Mind Blast, spam Mind Sear, and try and find a little bit more burst as opposed to 10, 12 seconds of uptime where those dots are ticking and yeah, hitting hard. Situations like this are the dream, where you can just lead between 2 units at once, chuck in a Mind Flay every so often to keep the Shadow Word Pains active. Vampiric Touch is always going to be the first dot to expire. You can start pre-casting just after the 2-second mark. Obviously that changes when you have Bloodlust or any major haste effects. And then you can clip it. If you cast it early, then yeah, there's no pandemic effect like there is in retail, where it just refreshes and brings that damage with you into the next dot. And you want that to run all the way down to the end. Final damage take happens then. And reapply. And that could be the difference between you getting a good log or not, so try and bear that in mind. But look at it. What a zone, eh? Good memories. I love this boss as well.
And paint my face with your blood!
So once again, Devouring Plague, Vampiric Touch, Mind Blast, 2 ticks here into a Shadow Web Pain. Go for glory. So Vampiric Touch just expired, precast, just clips. You see I try and greed here for the Mind Blast. Little little jiggle there because I'm tilted. I get Shadow locked out of that one. Tried to greed it for the extra damage in that burst rotation.
My life for the death god!
And this one with the line of sight, dodge the mechanic.
Ingvar, your pathetic failure will serve as a warning to all. You are damned. Arise and carry out the Master's will.
I return! A second chance
Dodge
to
that,
prove
then we jump
your
back into the action. So back into another trinket, straight back into getting those Shadow Weaving stacks up as quickly as possible. 2 ticks cancel, 5 stacks, now we blast. Once again, you can also cancel your Mind Flay to keep Mind Blast on cooldown, it's going to pack more damage. Maybe here, 2 ticks once again, precast into that. Maybe don't get stunned, so Mind Blast doesn't go off. This time I actually hold, don't want to get silenced.
No! I can do
And easy as that.
better!
Utgarde Keep complete.